Now this past weekend, we had the conclusion of our second SLS Apex event, of which makes up one of 3 new stops along the tour for this year's schedule. Now these Apex stops center more around single tricks on spots based on real life locations, and rather than obtain a permit for the real thing or host a true best trick format like last year's Resurrection events, these Apex stops serve purely as a best single trick contest in the usual SLS format, opting to replace 2 lines for 2 additional chances for a maximum of 3 high scoring single tricks. Now with the past one resulting in the win for Yuto Horigome on the recreation of the Beverly Hills stair set, there was a lot of expectations that he would come through again on the second stop and take the win. As for this stop's course, it was based off the downtown library fountain gap, however with some notable adjustments like an extended length on the out ledges to meet the stairs and a skatable top surface instead of the original wall-based kind of ride-up that they had, and an added down rail because it wouldn't be SLS without at least one. Given this spot setup, it's clear that if you're not one of the few skaters that can throw yourself down gaps easily, you'll be stuck to the same baby rail that every other skater will be hitting. Leaving me to my first gripe about this second stop, as although the designers tried their best to switch up things and put less focus on handrails, the skaters that compete are so rail-coded that their poor brains cannot comprehend attempting tricks on anything else on the course. As we can see by only 12 out of 98 attempts across both men's and women's events being tricks landed down the stairs, with the addition of literally only 4 tricks for the entire night being landed down the outledge as well, leaving an absolute plethora of skaters frantically copying each other's tricks down the same obstacle over and over. And as we get into the men's side of things, there was a lot of hype for Yuto to come through as previously mentioned. However, given his performance in the prior week's Olympic qualifiers, it's hard to say if he's really on his game at the moment considering his less than average scoring as of recent. And it seems that carried over into this event unfortunately, as he wound up being dead last amongst all skaters. Having gone from first place to last within just a couple months really shows how unpredictable the skateboarding crap can be, as I don't believe he's really had any injuries and is mostly battling with an Olympic spot to Paris more than anything else. However, although facing a similar circumstance with the Olympic qualifiers that Yuto did, Najee Houston was able to pull himself together and get revenge for his recent losses, landing his 3 highest scoring single tricks back to back to back to snag first place, with the 4th one as a celebratory last trick victory lap, giving him his first SLS Apex win and breaking his 2-year losing streak. Whether or not this is a turning point for the newly sober Ja is only for the future to tell. As following just behind him was Chris Jocelyn in second place with a 25.6, leaving a gap of only 1.5 points between him and first place. Comparing his tricks to Nyjah, it's really hard to say the judges scored unfairly, as Nyjah's tricks were just as complex as Jocelyn's, yet with an added grind down the handrail no less. However, I did have a feeling that Jocelyn would do this well, and if it weren't for Nyjah's cab flip board slide down the main rail, he could have easily had the chance to take the win for first place. Especially considering that he's definitely one of the few skaters that voluntarily throws himself downstairs and gaps regularly, and this course was practically made for him to do well on. However, as for the rest of the skaters, this course was just a hot mess in terms of performance for everyone all around, with Nyjah being the only skater to land 4 tricks, as well as have 2 of the only 5 9 club scores of the night, compared to that of the first Apex event where there was a total of 15 9 clubs given out amongst the judging, leaving this event to just be a bust for most of the skaters, as can be seen with the higher bail percentage and a lower overall and total average score, leaving this event to be a bit lackluster in terms of performance on either side for men's and women's. Especially with the absence of Haisa Leal and Chloe Cavell in the women's section, there was a noticeable void in energy without these 2 higher performance skaters, leaving the win to SLS first-timer Nanaka Fujisawa, who flew in late with barely any time to practice and ended up with the highest scoring single trick of the women's side, a proper pop shove front 50-50 down the main rail to earn her an 8.5, which was the determining factor in her win against fellow Japanese skater Aoi Umera, surpassing her just by 0.9 points. Considering when you look at the fact that all women skaters could barely meet the 3-trick minimum, even with some more basic safety tricks to get some filler spots for scores, it's clear that this event really could have been anyone's game. Whether due to the size of the rail or the length of the stair gap, the women's side would just be a taste of the single rail barrage before the men had their turn. Given that the men's skaters are typically almost 10 years older than that of the women's, it's fair to say that given this age difference, the gap in difficulty should at least be somewhat considered, as it's only fair to assume that a skater that has 10 years more experience than that of another, regardless of their gender orientation, should have no trouble skating an obstacle that a younger skater might be struggling with. It's for this reason that I truly feel these last 2 Apex events were just so objectively boring, especially compared with the inspiration of the Resurrection events and the original SLS format and courses, giving us what really just feels like a slimmed down, straight to the point match of SLS and sucking all the soul and passion out of the Resurrection events from last year, leaving them a cold, rigid shell of predictable tricks down a cutout slice from the main trick section of a normal SLS course. Although they did their best to try and pick a somewhat decent spot to rebuild for this event, it always seems so ironic to me that the spots they chose to replicate for these past 2 Apex events are both still skatable today, and when compared to that of the Resurrection events on Hubba Hideout, which no longer exists, and the Wilshire 15, which is permanently skate stopped, the past 2 chosen spots could have easily been done in person. But I will give them the benefit of the doubt, and that fact that X Games already has them beat in that department with their real street best trick events, leaving me to wonder whether or not that's the reason SLS has gone to forego the Resurrection events and replace them with these Apex stops. Not to mention that having a physical location in the same arena that slot boxing gets hosted in gives SLS an opportunity to rake in some additional cash from those who can attend the event, which, given the larger prize pool for this year's schedule, it makes sense that they would do anything they can to get some extra income. With the conclusion of this second Apex stop, there will be a wide gap in the SLS season as we finish the first half of events, with the next taking place after the Olympic Games for 2024. We'll see exactly who turns up for this last Apex stop, as I'm sure any medalist winners won't bother pushing themselves for a measly best trick contest, especially when considering that the 3rd and 4th events for SLS before the championships will be held in October and November, and these will be the last determining factors in which group of skaters will be in the top rankings to head to the finals for Brazil. Meaning that although these Apex stops are nice for some quick cash and to shine a spotlight on lesser known skaters, they won't be as much of importance when compared to the original format events we have later this year. Based off the cumulative scoring across all events so far, it appears our top 3 are Giovanni Viana, Gustavo Ribeiro, and Felipe Gustavo, all of which have made an appearance at every event except this past Apex stop, leaving Nigel Houston and, surprisingly enough, Braden Hoban to follow behind. Given the next 3 events are worth a maximum of 190 possible scoring points, and these rankings determine who's going into the top 16 skaters, it's clear to see that for some people like Yuto, aiming for the podium spot is the safest way to secure your chance in the finals. So we'll just have to wait and see if we have both an Olympic medalist and an SLS podium placing finish. Till then, I'll do my best to keep y'all updated and in the loop for more SLS crap going on. As for this event specifically, I'd finally decided to use my data for evil and place some bets through the lucrative SLS betting system. I was fortunate enough to walk away with $300 off of $50, but I think we can do better. So make sure y'all check out my other content and let me know what y'all thought of my opinions in the comments below. Thanks for watching and stay pushing.
What's that? Wait, say it again? Sorry, it's so loud. I can't understand what you're saying, bro.
We're messing with you.
Is this part of the thing? Is this part of the thing?